1914, and World War has broken out in Europe. The German Empire has begun its offensives, and after the start of the invasion of Belgium, the British Empire enters the Great War alongside other members of the Entente powers. Britain and its empire was absolutely massive, covering 1/4 of the world's land surface and being one of the strongest powers of the world. Given how large this war was and how important the British Empire was, what was the British Empire in World War I?
Hi, I'm Alexander Peterson, and welcome to Dinohistorians. Today, we will explore a massive topic. What was the British Empire in World War I? To find this out, we have to go back to the breakout of the First World War.
We begin on July 28th, 1914. The Austro-Hungarian Empire has declared war on Serbia 1 month after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austrian throne. Within days, great powers such as Germany, France, and Russia have entered into war. To quickly defeat France, Germany activates the Schlieffen Plan, a plan to invade Belgium and Luxembourg to avoid France's many defenses. The United Kingdom, having prior to the war made an alliance with France and Russia, begins to prepare for war. After the start of the invasion of Belgium, the United Kingdom and its great empire across the globe declares war on Germany and its allies on behalf of the United Kingdom's commitment to defend Belgium. Immediately, British forces and colonies across the empire are tasked with different objectives. Upon declaring war on Germany, millions of British troops are sent to France to help stop the German advance, while the colonies are tasked with quickly capturing German colonies. In Africa, British and French forces jump on German colonies in Equatorial, Southwest, and East Africa. In German Togoland, the British colony of the Gold Coast and the French colony of Dahomey launched the Togoland campaign from the 6th to the 26th of August, 1914, which would quickly capture the German protectorate in only 20 days. Not far away, in German Cameroon, British Nigeria, French Equatorial Africa, along with support from troops sent from British India and the Belgian Congo, together launch the Cameroon Campaign, starting from August 6, 1914. Allied forces advanced from all sides into the German colony, while British and French naval ships bombard coastal cities and towns, while also preventing German reinforcements and supplies from arriving for the struggling German colony. In early 1916, the commander of German forces in Cameroon, Karl Zimmermann, concluded that the campaign against the Allies was lost, and the last German forces in Cameroon surrendered the colony on March 10, 1916. In southern Africa, South Africa launches the Southwest Africa Campaign against German Southwest Africa. A first invasion attempt by South African forces failed at the Battle of Sanfontaine. German forces briefly launched their own invasion against South Africa, but to no success. After the South Africans fended off the Germans, they were ready to launch a full-scale invasion into the German colony. The South Africans once again invaded, with success, and German Southwest Africa was fully captured in July 1915. The last German colony to be captured in Africa was German East Africa. But unlike the capture of other German colonies, this time the British and their allies would have quite a challenge in capturing the colony. When the war first broke out, British East African and Belgian Congo forces launched the East African Campaign against German East Africa. However, the British and their allies would be met with fierce resistance from German forces. German East African forces launched brutal guerrilla warfare offensives against British and Allied forces. British forces in East Africa requested immediate support to quell the German attacks. Reinforcements were sent from South Africa, Nigeria, India, and with the Portuguese entry into the war in 1916, Allied forces advanced into German East Africa from all sides. Even with all these new reinforcements, resistance remained strong against the British and their allies. The war in East Africa would drag on even after Germany and its allies surrendered. As fighting still continued in German East Africa into November 1918, German commanders in East Africa had received word of the armistice signed between Germany, the British, and their allies. With the German Empire surrendering, the German commanders in East Africa had no choice but to surrender, which they did on November 25th, 1918, a whole 2 weeks after the end of the war. In the Pacific, the British ally, the rising Japanese Empire, makes an offer to the British to join the war against Germany and its allies if their empire can take Germany's colonies in Asia and the North Pacific Ocean. The British accepted the offer and requested Japanese support in the Pacific. Japan would officially join the war with its declaration of war on Germany on August 23, 1914. Japan, with British support, would seize all German colonies in Asia and in the Pacific north of the equator, including the Marshall Islands, Qingdao, and the Mariana and Palua Islands. While south of the equator, Australia and New Zealand jump on Germany's Oceania colonies. Australia would launch the New Guinea campaign, which would quickly capture German New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, German Samoa, and Nauru in only a few months, with the surrender of all German forces in German New Guinea on September 21st, 1914.
Throughout the war, colonies and dominions from across the empire participated in the war effort. Soldiers are sent to Africa, the Pacific, and in Europe, where millions upon millions of soldiers are sent from India, Nigeria, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, among many others, were sent to the front lines.
The war in Europe, from the British perspective, would be largely stuck in stalemate for the majority of the conflict. British forces would play a key role in defending France and what remained of Belgium. Specifically, when the Germans attacked the French city of Verdun. The French defended the city desperately and called on its allies for assistance. The British, in response to the French call for help, started their own brutal battle, the Battle of the Somme. A devastating battle for both the British and the Germans. But in the end, the battle resulted in a British victory, and the front lines were pushed back. British forces would also participate on many other fronts. When the Ottoman Empire joined the war against the British and their allies, British forces, led by a man known as Lawrence of Arabia, landed in Mesopotamia to protect oil interests. In response to the new offensive, the Ottomans launched an attack on British Egypt to seize the Suez Canal and cut supply routes to Mesopotamia, which was successfully repelled by the British. The British and their allies also launched another offensive against the Ottomans in an attempt to capture the straits linking the Mediterranean to the Black Sea to end the isolation of their ally Russia. British and French forces land in the Dardanelles, but the Allied forces are repelled by the Ottomans. While back home on the British Isles, the British have to put down several revolts from the Irish, a problem that would plague the British throughout the war and would eventually lead to Irish independence a few years after the war in 1922. Toward the end of the war, British and Allied forces land in Greece to launch a new offensive, which quickly forces Bulgaria to surrender. The British, with the help of French and Arabian nationalists, pushed the Ottomans out of Arabia and Mesopotamia, forcing the Ottomans to sign an armistice. British and Allied forces also pushed into Austria-Hungary from the Balkans and in Italy, forcing the Austro-Hungarians to sue for peace. On the Western Front, with the arrival of troops from the United States, who had joined the war in April 1917, the Allies prepare to launch a massive offensive against Germany. The Germans try to push back the front lines and defeat the British and their allies before their armies grow in strength. The new German offensives are repelled, and the British and their allies begin to push the Germans back into Germany, which quickly forces Germany to sign an armistice on November 11th, 1918, officially ending World War I. In the Treaty of Versailles, signed between Germany and the Entente powers on June 28, 1919, Germany is forced to cede all of its colonies to the French, Japanese, and British colonial empires. The British Empire would seize parts of German Togoland, Cameroon, East Africa, and would fully seize German Southwest Africa, New Guinea, and many of Germany's island colonies in Oceania. The empire would also seize many of the Ottoman Empire's former territories, founding a Jewish state under British influence, known as Palestine. After the British fully seized these territories, the Great Empire of Britain would reach its peak size and influence in 1921, controlling an entire quarter of the world's land surface.
The British Empire's contributions to the First World War are undeniable. The Empire had played a massive role, from capturing colonies to launching massive campaigns, some successful, others not. Millions of brave young men had fought and died for their great empire, and had it not been for their sacrifice, the world would look much different today. Thank you for watching Dinohistorians, and we will see you on the next great adventure into history.